What's up, everybody? What's going on? The Boxing Source checking in and following up on Anthony Joshua's unanimous decision win over Jermaine Franklin at the O2 Arena. And as you've seen, Anthony Joshua, he get through those 12 rounds there against Jermaine Franklin. He worked on a few things there. Of course, he had Derrick James in his corner for the first time in his career. And I think I've seen a few things there that they wanted to work on that he was able to execute in that particular bout. He was just being consistent with the jab, being patient with the jab, kind of like staying a good distance away from Jermaine Franklin for the majority of this fight, particularly in the first half of the fight. And so you really didn't see much outside of that coming from Anthony Joshua until like the second half of the fight, where he was able to work on getting that right uppercut landed on the inside. But you've seen once he did have a combination, with a left follow through with a right, it was pretty much done at a distance. So when you do things like that, especially with Anthony Joshua, you really don't get everything out of that punch. So Jermaine Franklin was able to take a good number of those particular shots there, the right hand. Jermaine Franklin kind of like came back after those combinations came through, because he was like, you know what? I'm going to be down here. If he's just throwing one or two shots at a time, that's all I have to wait for, 1-2, and then just come back. And so you kind of like seen Jermaine Franklin be able to catch Anthony Joshua with a couple of right hands there over the course of this bout. But there were a couple of times where you've seen Jermaine Franklin in trouble, once in the 10th round, where early or pretty much in the first half of that 10th round, you've seen Anthony Joshua land a right uppercut in close quarters that really rocked Jermaine Franklin, but it wasn't anything that could have really had Jermaine Franklin in trouble. He was able to take that particular shot, and then later on, he took a punch to the body that kind of like affected him, had him back up for a little bit, but he was able to, get through that particular instance there. So, kudos to Jermaine Franklin there for getting through those 12 rounds. It was a very tough out there for Anthony Joshua. There were times where it seemed like he was a little bit comfortable, but then in the second half of the fight, it was really a slow paced fight. A lot of clinches that were taking place in that part of the fight, pretty much around 7, 8, 9. You've seen a lot of clinches there in this fight. But had Anthony Joshua get through those 12 rounds, unanimous decision victory. Number, what was it? I'd say at least 8 rounds. I would say 8 rounds were scored in favor of Anthony Joshua from all 3 judges, and I think one judge gave him 9 rounds. So you kind of like had something like that, I would say. For Anthony Joshua, he just gets back in the win column after his 2 decision losses to Alexander Usyk, and now pretty much what's next. Yes, he did talk about particularly facing Tyson Fury, or it may be Dylan White, but he said for sure or definitely it will be summer. That will be the next time that you see Anthony Joshua back in the ring. And you know what? I hope it does come in the summer. You want to be as active as possible. You want to try to have as many fights as possible. Like having 2 fights a year or 1 fight a year, especially as a heavyweight, really doesn't do much or do very well. So you're going to see Anthony Joshua back in camp over in Texas, he said, very soon, and then try to get a fight later on, pretty much in the summer months. So we're going to see if Anthony Joshua secures a bout in the summer months here. And with Jermaine Franklin, that is his second consecutive loss, second consecutive decision loss. Of course, his last one was to Dylan White. We'll see what happens there in the heavyweight division, particularly for both of those fighters. A number of people will be interested to see what happens with Anthony Joshua. But that is my analysis of this particular fight. We will have more on this in the live podcast that is Sunday, scheduled for 7:30 p.m. Eastern time in the U.S. That's live on YouTube, and we're going to be talking about this and more at that live podcast. So if you can check that out live, we really appreciate it. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the Boxing Source where you get more content. On that note, folks, I'm out. Peace.